The following presentation is brought to you by the Pride of ODU, the official NIL collective of Old Dominion Athletics. Be a monarchist. Join the Pride. Monarch Nation, welcome back. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Aaron, and we have the special opportunity to welcome back Old Dominion's first quarterback, Old Dominion Hall of Famer, Thomas DeMarco. Welcome to the show, Thomas. How are we doing today?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you?
Doing fantastic.
Awesome, man.
I think we got to go back to the start of your college days when you got recruited to Old Dominion by Brian Scott. Tell us that story. I know a lot of people probably know it from your Hall of Fame speech, but bring us back to those days of when Old Dominion was trying to bring you to Norfolk.
Oh, no. So I would have been 2008. I'm sitting in College of the Desert. I think I'm in math class or something, and my coach texts me, and we go to the football area, and Coach Scott's there, and he's, hey, we've got a guy from Old Dominion University. It's coming to take a look at some of the players, and we want to talk to you. He tells me where he's from. I'm from Norfolk, Virginia. We're going to start a football team at Old Dominion University. And to give you perspective, I'm 19 years old in Southern California. This is the university that I'm at is in Palm Desert, California. I previously went to San Diego State, so I haven't left the state of California yet. And I'm listening to him talk about Virginia. We're here in Nawfik, Norfolk. I don't remember how he said it, but I remember thinking, like, where can we pull up Google Maps? Like, where are we talking? So to give perspective of that, 2 hours in any direction in Southern California, you can do whatever you want. You can snowboard, you can be in the water, you can be in the desert, you can go into the mountains. So I was like, why would you ever leave? And he basically says to me, like, hey, we want to offer you a partial for punting. We got this guy, his name's Jonathan Plisco. We're not too interested in how he's progressing. So we really want to bring you in, and we think you'll be just fine. And I always bring this up because Coach Scott is a large man, played quarterback. Ron Wickham was the quarterback coach. He played quarterback. And then Coach Wilder played quarterback as well. And all of them are very prototypical sizes. And I'm 5'9" and 3/4. I always bring that up because I will not call myself 5'10" and lie to you guys. I will not do it. So when I'm sitting there, my head coach is basically, hey, he plays quarterback too. And Coach Scott just pretended that he didn't even hear that happened. And he's like, yeah, that's great. So anyway, punting, that sounds pretty good. He goes, just send me some tape. We'll be fine. And back then you didn't have all the features you had today. I made the tape in the order that I did, and I worked with the film staff. And I sent him, like, I think it was 98% quarterback and 2% kicker, because I was like, I'm not going there to kick or whatever. And the phone call came back, and Coach Wilder flew out, and the rest is history. They said, do you want to come on out? I said, yeah. Once I know where out is, let's do it. I'm ready.
All right. So you get out to Norfolk, whatever they said.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're not the only guy they brought in. All right. So when you come into the program and you're competing, how'd you end up as the number one guy? Were you the number one guy from the start?
No, I was not the number one guy. Jog my memory. I think we had Tommy Riemann coming in. He was a high profile high school athlete. We had Dan Pitts, we had Bobby Cooper, and we had myself. So we had 4 of us that were in the lineup for that. And a quick story, Coach Scott said to me prior to my visit and prior to everything, he goes, you're going to love Norfolk, Virginia. It's just like San Diego without the SeaWorld. It's perfect. It's really good. So the first semester I was there was in January, and I'll never forget putting on the cleats and the sweatpants and the sideways hail and rain and winter storm that, for me, I'm from Palm Springs. I wore sandals 9 months out of the year. And I remember thinking, this is not San Diego without the SeaWorld. But the 4 of us were competing for the position, and it was transition because it was the first time out of the state and first time joining a team that had been practicing together that had some camaraderie. The 3 quarterbacks in particular were able to gauge some of the speed and how everybody went. And then I believe we went into the first game against Chowan, and it was Bobby Cooper and myself were going to get playing time for that. And some snaps were for Bobby, some for myself. I was lucky that I got an all vertical call early, and I knew I was going to throw the ball to Markwell Thomas because he's an amazing athlete and was definitely going to run past him. After that touchdown, Nick Mayers said, "You just wanted to throw the first touchdown to Markwell Thomas because that's DeMarco-to-Thomas, and you get your name in the playbook or in the history books twice." And I said, "I've honestly never considered that. In fact, now I understand more so how receivers think and talk." And I will joke with him about that all the time. And Mark just will look at me when I go to football games in town now, and he'll be like, "I'm glad you did that."
All right, so take us back to the week leading up to Chowan, because we all know the moment, the surprise by fans. I don't think we knew what we had when we kicked off that game. But as a team, what was the expectation and kind of the feeling around that first game?
Yeah, so a lot of us have played football in meaningful games for a few years, whether it's high school or JUCO players or not, but none of us had play in front of 10,000, 20,000 fans. And the part that was communicated very well was like, there's a tremendous buildup to this opportunity because for 60, whatever, 70 years, they haven't had football, and this is a sports town, and we love that it's coming back. And you just have to be honest with yourself. Like, coach could talk till he's blue in the face. It's not going to settle in until you go through it, until you walk through it. And so the reason I say walk through it is the Monarch Walk coming from the facility through the tailgating. Because I'll tell you this, we haven't played a game in 70 years, but we were first team all tailgating immediately. Everybody knew exactly what to do, where to show up, how to do it. So seeing the excitement of kids that want high fives, parents that are enjoying themselves, sharing with family, stuff like that, you got jacked up even before you got into the stadium. And then once you got to the stadium and you got to hear the roar of people that were there early, and then gearing up through practice or warm-ups, and then finally seeing kickoff and how loud it was, very exciting. I'm from Southern California. I didn't go to a lot of games, but I have been to a USC game, and I have been to Qualcomm Stadium where the Chargers used to play. And so it's a feeling that you are like, this is pretty special. But the difference was they're cheering for us now because we're playing and we're there. So that was very cool. Very cool.
So not long after that Chowan game, you guys were playing Jacksonville. And if I remember correctly, I think we were down like 20-7 at the half. If I'm not misremembering.
We definitely misremembering.
That too, yeah.
That game was a game I will never forget for two reasons. One, it was the first time we came back and we won, and I've started the year off on a good point. But the argument that I have heard my entire life is that humidity versus dry heat is everybody battles back and forth until you actually experience Florida heat. And what I will tell you is that there are some people that can handle it and there are some people that just cannot. So I didn't realize I learned that you actually can eat mustard packets and honey and over Gatorade and water. And I was just, so people were struggling on both sides for that game. And then we were down and needed to come back, and learning what it was like to combine our experiences in terms of working together to finish this out. The small world that we're in. So I now work for a company who had a player on that exact team. And I just found this out about 3 weeks ago. So I have my ODU backpack. I bring it with me. And I was at a regional meeting in Portland, and the guy played football. Big guy, clearly was an offensive or defensive lineman. And he goes, "Oh yeah, ODU, yeah, we played them." And I was like, "Oh, you did?" I was like, what year? Or I was like, "Where are you from?" He's I'm from Jacksonville. I was like, "Oh wow, I remember Jacksonville." And he goes, "Yeah, so I would have played 09. I was like, "No way." I was like, "So did I." He goes, "Well, who are you?" I was like, "I was the quarterback of that game." And his face, he won't talk to me still for this day because "You were the guy that threw the ball." I was like, "You mean to Dorian Jackson on the same pass to win the game?" Yeah, that was 100% me. And so there's a playful banter that never goes away from anyone that crossed paths professionally about high school games or college games. It was a special moment for us for sure.
So being on that first team, I've seen you guys on campus. It seems like you have this great camaraderie, like this fraternity. It's a little bit different than just all of ODU football. It's just like that team seems to be like a really close-knit group. How did that kind of happen, or did it just happen naturally?
So I left immediately after I was done playing, and I've come back a few times, but I haven't been around the future generations of teams. And I've heard a few players that kind of played with me in the next, and there is 100% something special about the first couple of years. We're very close. I feel like we got lucky that there's a lot of characters, a lot of social people on the team that genuinely want what's best for each other. And when you are responsible for starting the culture and starting what to expect for fans and all those things, you have this like pressure of, I want to get it right. So you get to know somebody probably more or quickly and a deeper understanding than you might for, I'm just passing through or I'm just here to whatever. And it's funny because I'll come back for one game a year and we are embracing in the parking lot and we are high-fiving and we're excited, like visibly excited to see each other, giddy in some situations. And so I think that it's a very special part of my life, and I've enjoyed some of those memories. And every time you come back, somebody shares a story of something you forgot about, and we all laugh about it. But it's definitely special for sure.
And you talk about culture and about getting things right. The early days, obviously, that was as close to probably perfect as it could get. A lot of debate on, I'm sure you get asked questions all the time about Bobby, and lots of debate of when we moved, there wasn't the success that people hoped there. But it's undeniable that what was built early was executed to a T. In your mind, what were the factors that made that all happen?
I think I'm trying to understand how to explain it, because a lot of these guys won championships, they've won games, they're fast, they're physical, they've done the job and the work to get to the next level and play at college. And that's no different than any other team. You're going to get the opportunity to play in college if you have a resume that's sufficient in high school. We just found a way to blend multiple personalities and geographical situations with no history from that stuff. And so a lot of that is we were used to winning where we came from. And that was just like, all right, we're going to do that here. But we had to put the work in to learn what that looked like in general. And so I think there was a pretty good understanding. I don't know how many people know, but Coach Wilder spoke with South Florida and was like, what would you do differently, or what is an important aspect of starting a program? And the feedback was, you got to stagger your classes. You can't burn all your scholarships in the first year and then you're locked into one class. So I think there was 9 of us, right? So 9 quote unquote older people. Some of us had 3 years like myself to play. Some only had 2 years to play. But the idea was always sold from the beginning that we're going to do something special, but it's going to take work to do it. And so we had a great combination of talent physically and talent mentally to be able to understand that it's not a linear process. You're going to have a good day and a bad day and a good day and a bad day, and you got to put it all together. And the sample size is the last 6 days to go play the next game. And I don't want to say like we deserve because we put the work in for it, but it was just the idea that let's make sure that it's special in the beginning to pay back what was given, whether it's a donor, whether it's an administrator, whether it's the fans, the city, the kids too, because we didn't want to prove them wrong for this situation. There's a lot of political for and against a football team, and rightfully so in a lot of those manners. And so you just want to make sure that you have some guys that have good impacts in the community and start it off right. Because if we would have came out and did poorly the first 3-4 years, that wasn't an option. It just wasn't an option.
Now, speaking of that, so I think when we all think about the transition, obviously you had 2 years as an independent, we're playing a crazy schedule. a little bit all over the place. And then you're getting ready to go into CAA, which is at the time people were calling like the SEC of FCS football. That William & Mary game, that game seemed to show everybody that Old Dominion was ready for that transition. Despite the end result, they went toe-to-toe with a team that had been in the FCS National Championship in recent years. Take us back to that game. I know it was a tough loss, but take us back to what that pregame mentality was and how you guys left that game.
Yeah, the motivation heading into that is that they don't think you belong in this league. They don't think that you're ready for that stuff. And to be perfectly honest with you, you just need the opportunity to play that team. The hypothetical, what would happen if so-and-so played so-and-so, that's a fun conversation for after school with your friends, all the things. But like the bottom line is, if you're presented the opportunity to it, then you get to see what happens. And fortunately, we proved that we could play and did belong in most of the opportunities presented to us for that. I get slightly irritated when somebody will say, oh, Georgia only beat X, Y, and Z team by 15 to 20. It's the next game for them and the Super Bowl for the following person. It's the consistency that comes with that stuff. And so we were excited to prove it, but it was the next game that was going to be the continuous expectation of who we're going to play, how we're going to fare, what's going to happen for that. I love when people get excited about the games. When Kai Blanco caught the ball in the end zone on his bender route and toe tap to get in there. People almost jumped out of the loge for that because they were so excited about it. You heard the gasp on the post route when Nick Mayers runs past everybody in the middle of the field. And then simultaneously, oh my gosh, we almost had them for that. It meant something to everybody. And for us as borderline entertainers and trying to accomplish what our desires are for that each year, it was really special to see how important it was for the community and the players to prove that stuff. And I think we did that. We're frustrated that it wasn't a perfect season, but that's because that's the personalities we had on the team. But 9-2 is, I think it was 9-2, 8-3, 11-1. That's a pretty good start.
Oh, it's an awesome start. If you had to pick one favorite, what your favorite game was as a Monarch, what would it be and why?
So I know the first one that comes to mind, and it's interesting because it's super like emotional. It has nothing to do with playing, right? My favorite memory of all time has nothing to do with a touchdown, and it has everything to do with my senior day of my senior year, having somebody decide that it was important to start chanting my name and then getting to limp on the field and pretend that I was 100% to play at all. To me, that was because what I'm the most proud of for everything is the building of the program in the right direction and learning so many life skills of trying to relate to somebody that you didn't grow up with, or the state you didn't grow up with, or the age difference, or the economic factors, or literally anything of that stuff. That's my favorite deal. But playing wise, I'd say the problem is that I just listened to 75 different situations in my head. You can't see it happening, but it all just happened right there. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Otherwise, I could talk for 7 hours about all my favorite experiences for that stuff.
Fair.
Yeah.
All right. So I know this is a little different for you as the quarterback, but for fans, we had you, and then we had Taylor, and then we had David. And there was a point where we're like, this is never going to end. We're going to be awesome for real.
Yeah.
But it all started with you and how you played the game with that toughness, that your ability to make plays with your feet through the air, but you were surrounded by a lot of great players as well.
Earlier, we established that they brought you in because there was some concerns about Plisco. So
Yeah.
we need to put a statement to rest. So Jonathan always claims, he's told us probably 7 or 8 times, that he was the one that was responsible for Taylor being able to do the punting that he did and taught him everything he knows. We know you know the truth. So you got to let us know what
did he ever
there?
say that with a straight face? I don't think Plisco has ever legitimately thought that was true in his life. I think he just says that because not only do the quarterbacks play quarterback, they also kick at ODU. And so it's funny. We're built different, and Plisco can keep that garbage statement to himself. And I'm saying that because we're good friends. And speaking of,
Oh, put him on.
no, I can't. Hey, I can't talk right now because I'm on a podcast, but I'll call you right back. Anyways, I didn't time that up at all, by the way. That's fantastic.
That's perfect. It's like the trailer for a future episode.
Yeah.
Jim Kovacs, if you're watching this, man, make the call.
Make the call.
Okay, I'm going to ask you another one. So a few weeks back or earlier this season, Ricky Ronnie was talking about kind of some players get to go out on their own terms and some don't. Like, so he is a quarterback playing in the Ivy. He knew when his last game was going to be. Listen, your career ended probably a little different than you had envisioned when you got hurt. When you got hurt in that game, one, did you think it was as serious as it was? What goes through your mind? That's your last year of college football.
Yeah.
And I imagine you played from a little kid. What are you thinking about there?
So interesting enough, I wasn't allowed to play football till I was a freshman in high school. So I didn't have a very long career, which is why I wanted to play all the time, nonstop. The game was against UMass, and I knew that I was going to be in the training facility from the moment it happened. What I did not know is what the heck a high ankle sprain was, because I've never understood the difference between the two. As soon as I got into the locker room at halftime, and I quickly realized this was not something you could mentally push through, and we weren't injecting anything to make that fixed anyways. So I knew right then and there at halftime, like, this is a different situation than I've ever experienced. Because most of the time I've been banged up a lot, and I was just prepared to go, it's going to be a little rough the next, but we'll get the adrenaline going. Everything's fine. So yeah, it was a different experience. The first time in my life, I realized I wasn't able to run for a very long time, like pain-free for a long time. It was tough.
I'd imagine FCS playoffs. So the team made the FCS playoffs that year. That last game, I think of it like a high school thing where you're going to the game expecting to win. And there's guys in that locker room that at the end of the game, they realize they're done.
Yeah.
The injury.
Correct. So it's a feeling that you can feel, like you can feel it the moment you walk off the field of, what am I going to do? Oh my gosh, here it comes. It's tremendously difficult because part of you, even if you might try to go to a combine or see what happens, you pretty much know this is going to be a rough next 6 months. You want to be optimistic. You think about training, do all those things, but you can pretty much see it on their faces. You can feel it in the room, and it's a miserable feeling because it's everything you've ever wanted to do since you can remember. And then you have to realize now you have to find a different locker room. And that's the most challenging part, is where's my new locker room? Because I said it earlier, there's 120 people on the team, or just 100 plus. Some of those become your best friends. Yeah. I've never went to lunch with 64 people ever again in my life. Like, you sit down and then you just take over an area and 15 people come in again, and you start yelling about what happened that day, or arguments with who's going to win the basketball game. That's gone. It's over with. And you have to process, what does that look like? And some people are lucky to find it in their first job. And most people have to go through the process of what is that going to look like. And some people don't ever get there.
All right. So every year, a new quarterback, new student athlete comes into Old Dominion. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to that 17, 18-year-old walks through the doors from everything that you learned to set them off on the right path from the beginning?
Obviously, the cliche of don't take it for granted. You've got 4 years, or not 4 to play, or 5 to play for. Make it the best that you can for what's going on. But I mean that in all aspects of it. Enjoy the downtime, enjoy the off season, enjoy the process of the game. You cannot explain to a 17-year-old that it's going to go by quick. It's never going to happen. They're not going to hear you. They might understand it. They don't get it. But the biggest thing I'll tell you is that everyone is watching you all of the time. Everyone is watching you all of the time. And you have to get used to that because you're under a microscope now more than ever with social media and all the things. So you need to understand that the moment that you show up, your resume is starting. And that is for your collegiate career, that is for your NIL deals, that is for your life after football, that is for your potential pro opportunity. You have to understand that there is no way everyone's not watching you the moment you show up. And there's a lot of pressure with that, but I'd rather know that now than get to my junior year and go, oh boy, I have some blemishes in the background, or I wasn't as professional in this aspect. That would be the biggest thing I would say, is that everyone is watching you all of the time. And if you've got 5 to play for, what do you want your resume to look like at the end of this?
All right. So back to you. You were our first quarterback. You're also our first professional quarterback, having played in the CFL. I'd love to hear that. I've never been able to talk to someone who's played the CFL. So the field dimensions are bizarre to an American.
Correct.
How much did that take getting used to as a quarterback? Or was it just like even better because you have so much more field to throw to?
It's a disaster, if I'm being honest with you, because the analogy I use is that if you took a baseball player and made him play softball, it's the same sport, but there's different nuances for it. So everything in any sport is a feel based on repetitions in the past. And so the first thing I will tell you is the dimensions are, it's 110 yards, so it's 10 yards longer. It's 15 yards wider. The hash marks are farther apart. It's crowned, which might not mean very much, but your eyes are memorizing what it used to look like to throw that way. The goalposts are in the front. The end zones are 20 yards. It's 3 downs instead of 4. What I always laugh is the challenge flag is yellow and the penalty flag is red, just to clearly state that it is a different league, which I think was very important. And everybody can move except for the offensive lineman. So I'm 22 years old. I'm in Vancouver, BC. Training camp is 3 weeks long. So you have 3 weeks to do it. I'm coming from Old Dominion University, where you use hand signals, no huddles. And I'm now going into a huddle with very long verbiage. You have 20 seconds to do it. And we're learning sign language because the offensive coordinator that I had an issue with the walkie-talkie or the headset one time and was like, it doesn't work. It'll never happen. So we had to learn sign language too, which I'm not exaggerating. It was so, I had a stack of 5-hour energy drinks on I was like, I'm exhausted from getting my butt kicked, but I'm mentally exhausted from trying to learn this foreign language. They just won the Grey Cup, which is the Super Bowl the year prior. They have their guy, their second string's been in the league, played in the NFL and was in the league 2 or 3 years. And then there's me, 4 days old with one bag, not sure if I'm getting an apartment or not. So that was like, I think I lost 5 years of my life just trying to figure that out. It's fun because you think to yourself like, oh, there's not good athletes out here. Deron Mayo was a perfect linebacker out there because he was one of the fastest guys on the field, and he could get to that situation. But when you take 3 steps in a hitch and a guy from FSU runs a 4.4 and he hit the line of scrimmage full speed, you take 3 steps in a hitch, you're throwing it 55 yards instead of watching it as it goes. And there's an extra guy on the field. So all the memorization that you had about I'm going to be hot because there's 2 guys to the left, guess what? That's picked up. So I'm sweating over here thinking about all of the things that happen. It's an amazing sport. It is an unbelievable talent up there. It's just a different game, and you got to pick it up quickly, or they're gonna say you can't be here.
Great question, Mike. I didn't even realize that. So high school the same way, same field dimension, same rules, same everything in Canada? Okay.
If they come across the border and they play an American team, they'll play like on a different size field. But yeah, it's wider. And the thing too is the ball's fatter in the middle. So, you don't get to go to the NFL and throw the Duke, which is practically impossible not to throw a spiral. You're throwing a pumpkin up there and it's cold.
A rugby ball?
It's
That's
a rugby
crazy.
ball. Yeah.
What was your favorite thing about Canada?
That I got to do what I loved for a living. I got to continue the locker room, continue the camaraderie, continue being around people that are trying to get better every single day. And why I bring that up is that since that has stopped, it's hard because junior, high school, college, professional, you're around people that are like, I'm going to make it to the next level. I'm going to show up next year better. I'm going to do something today to make me better tomorrow. And I didn't realize how unique of a mindset that was, which is fine. Not everybody has to win at everything, but when you've done that since you're 5 years old, it's an important aspect to have something like that. But living in a different country and being done by 1 o'clock sometimes taught me how to live in your head, how to find separate things to be good at, not working or not having to work for 6 months. I chose to every off season, but taught me how to be proactive in what the next thing is, knowing that what Ricky Ronnie said, my version is the sport's traditionally done with you before you are. So if that's the case, how are you preparing yourself for when that day comes? Because I think 1% of people get to decide when they're done. So a lot of that experience taught me how to be ready for the next thing too. I was basically like, I always joke with my friends, everybody would love to have the ability to go to happy hour every single day. Try that for a week as a 25 to 45-year-old when everyone else is working and you just do a lot of hanging out by yourself. So you got to learn how to deal with that, which was a great mindset to learn. Yeah.
You're not kidding. And it's not just the people trying to get better and to advance each. It's the camaraderie. Like you were talking about going to dinner with 64 people. As a former Navy guy, I think a lot of veterans struggle with the same thing when they leave the service. It's almost you're so used to being in that ready room or on the flight deck or in the galley or at boot camp, whatever it is, and all of a sudden it just in a snap, it's gone.
Yeah.
And it's difficult. So finding that next step, whatever, or the meaning or whatever it is, it's a real thing.
It absolutely is. And we're getting better about understanding that's hard for some people. Military specifically is getting more clout for that. Athletically, I believe we're talking more about our feelings and some of the things that come with that with sports psychology and how important mental health and all that stuff happens. It's a tough thing to explain if you're not around it. You don't have to be athletic minded. You can be a fraternity or a sorority person. You can be a military person. You can be a corporate person, right? There's a lot. I mean, everybody jokes that there's a cult out there called Nike and Beaverton. It's because they eat together, they hang out together, they work together, they're around each other all the time. And that's hard to simulate to a different stage in life or a different company because it may not be how everybody is. So if you are used to that and you enjoy that, I always sarcastically joke, my favorite subject in school was recess and always has been. So here I am trying to play recess. My wife calls it sharing beef jerky. You're the guy on the airplane that opens a bag of beef jerky and would you like some? And won't shut up for 20 minutes. I'm like, stop, that's not me. As I open the bag and do that. Yeah.
Hey, everyone appreciates a snack they were unprepared for.
Absolutely.
See, beef jerky.
Yeah, especially if it's good. All right. And at the prices today,
jerky's
through the roof.
Nothing better than a free snack, Mike. Am I right? Come on.
Nothing's free on that plane anymore either. So some DeMarco beef jerky, you can't beat that.
All right. So you had the opportunity to come back to Old Dominion and work for ODAF.
Yep.
Did that give you a different appreciation for the fan base or the school at all?
Absolutely. What I would tell everybody is that football, you play farther away than most other sports. Everyone else can get a little closer to the players at that point. The other part is we're wearing a face mask, and everything when I played was an NCAA violation. So we couldn't talk to you, see you, go to lunch with you, do any of the things too. So my favorite part about getting into the Old Dominion Athletic Foundation and being a fundraiser was it was like a thank you-a-thon, right? It was like, hey, I would love you to support the university for this, that, and the other, but let me tell you why that matters. And here's the perspective from where I'm coming from, because I did sit at the scholarship luncheon table, and it did mean something to me because I probably wouldn't have been able to come here had that not been the case. And what's the impact for that to happen? And so you go to lunch, coffee, dinner, multiple events, and you get to hear their most exciting part because they want to share their memory of being on the sidelines at that one win or watching that one big play or winning the championship or whatever it is for that, and watching how excited they are for it and realizing that it was just a special moment in time for the football side of things, but also learning the other venues and the other sporting departments that are equally as heritage driven and what they have accomplished and why it's important for them for those things too. It was the perfect quote unquote entry level position to get out of football and into that. I couldn't have asked for a better situation.
Did you find, because you'd find yourself all over campus at that point, going to, like you said, different venues, different sports. Did you find one that you really liked that you never had an opportunity as a student athlete, a sport to attend?
A different sport, you're saying? Yeah. So I have never heard or seen field hockey ever until I came to the university. I have such an appreciation for like how hard they train for that. I also grew up in Palm Springs area. Our tennis team was fantastic, and I knew that was very important for where I came. Our golf team. I also know that we were known as a basketball team, and getting to meet and see how excited people were for that. Prior to some of the changes, I would openly say it doesn't matter how good football does. We're never going to go to a national stage and have a playoff for that. Now, obviously, that's changed since then. But when I was fundraising, I was very envious of the opportunity of going to the NCAA playoffs and how important it is to maintain that, because you hear the impact of making those races and going deep into the playoffs and the enrollment automatically from there as well. I don't know if I would ever learn how to, but the sailing team crushes it out there as well. And I got to learn a little bit more about that. I'm excited. We have volleyball now too. I like and appreciate multiple avenues. You mentioned the military side. I am not built for the military, but I have an appreciation for somebody that goes through that and sticks to it and makes it a career and takes those values and applies it to corporate or family or businesses at that point too. So even though I can't catch a lacrosse ball or hit a field hockey ball, I can definitely appreciate the work they put in there. And that was one of the reasons I liked fundraising. Fundraising was an introduction to multiple things and the prerequisite to being an athletic director, which was my initial thought process, was that I would love to do that, because the idea of being academically interested and not loyal to one individual team makes me deal with student athletes on both women and men as well as academic. I thought that was going to be fantastic. That's exactly what I wanted to do. But you get to meet people that make money in so many different ways. I'll never forget one of the, and I don't remember the name, but I think he sold nuts and bolts for a living. And I was like, how did you get into that? And you get to hear like Steve Ballard started doing patios or small concretes, and now he's doing large built. And you're just like, wow, that's it. The internship I never got to was established my first year, because I got to hear all of the ways that people started out. I got to go to internship school, if you will, as I got to talk to people, say thank you, hear their story, and learn more about them.
That's awesome. So this is going to be a kind of a two-parter, because you come back, you see the changes to SB Ballard Stadium, obviously. That is something that a foundation that your teams and Taylor's teams built. Without what you guys accomplished, we wouldn't have this beautiful stadium we have today. But I think we all missed the clamshells a little bit. A little bit. It was a little bit Norfolk. It was a little bit dirty. That place was rocking. There's that part. And the second part is talk to us about the ability to be inducted to being honored and being inducted into the Hall of Fame alongside another great like Kent Bazemore.
Progress comes in many different forms. There's always an appreciation for the original or the starting point. And I know that I think we did the brick from the old stadium and tried to incorporate as much as we could for that. And I think that's super special and very important. I know that I'm consider myself like a blue collar guy as well. And I really enjoyed the old stadium. I know that the improvements in terms of the seating or the improvements in terms of more concessions or the revenue generating portions or the extra seats or whatever somebody might say their favorite part of it is, it's part of showing progress for our institution, for our university. We want to maintain as much as we can of our foundation. And I think we did a pretty good job with that. It's easy to go. I remember the clamshell and it was awesome. And the biggest thing is that I remember I go back to my high school all the time and I'm like, I didn't go to this high school because they made a change. They moved the parking lot, did whatever. And so sometimes I go to the games and I didn't get a chance to wear the Carolina blue. And I'm like, man, we got better helmets or newer jerseys or we've got newer players. We've got NIL deals. We've got a new stadium. I would just have, even if you have a preference for the old, you just have to be thankful for the progress that stands for. Not to forget the old stadium or to say I preferred it that way. It's just, it should be a simultaneous problem. It should be like, man, I really missed that if that's your story. But then you should be proud that there's progress in that department for that. And the second question was pertaining to the induction. I met my wife after sports and she got to come back with me. I have a 5-year-old daughter that my wife has sarcastically shared with me, like, you need to memorialize a few of these things because she's not gonna think that you played anything. I live close to her family, and most, if not all, of my stories about back in the day have to come from me, and I absolutely hate that. So to memorialize the accomplishment and be inducted into the Hall of Fame is something that I'm excited to share with her when we finally get her out there, because I am very proud of what we've built, the beginning portions, what it's turned into, some of the players that we've been able to get after. It's been a very special part that I'm glad is memorialized for that. And I get to share it with my family and friends. And the teammates that texted me when it happened was a very special moment. And I enjoyed the entire ceremony and the opportunity to share what it meant to me with everybody. I thought that was very cool.
All right. So I'm not going to put you on the spot here with a name. But when we had Ryan Jensen on the show, he made a very, very compelling argument, or a very compelling kind of call to action as Hall of Fame. We need to get an O lineman in the Hall of Fame. Because it don't need to be me, but these guys, there should be someone. So you don't have to tell me who it should be, but if you were making a compelling argument to the powers to be of the Hall of Fame, why should the next football Hall of Famer be an offensive lineman from Old Dominion?
So my roommate, one of my best friends, I spent a lot of time with them. It is naturally a position that is extremely important that nobody understands, nobody remembers, but the point is, you can't throw the ball without having time, can't run the ball without the hole, and you can't set the tone without them. They are tremendous hires. So anyone who is considering hiring somebody, they have to communicate very well with somebody they can't see. They're extremely loyal. They are very funny. I don't know what it is, but if you would go by position, linemen they're just my favorite. It's tough because you don't want to single out any other position or any other name, meaning if I gave a center versus a left guard or whatever, so I won't put myself or my foot in my mouth for that. But I think it's a tough position for the general public to go, yeah, but how many touchdowns did they catch? I know my vote for sure, and I think that would be great. I also know that to set expectations, Ryan Jensen, I don't see that happening next year, but we will make it a priority for that guy. I know him very well. I get a text message from him every once in a while, and I would expect nothing less from him to say that.
All right, Thomas. So we've gone through your career up to where you are now. Tell us about your family and your work, and maybe pitch yourself if you want to the fans.
Perfect. Yeah. No, so I live in Vancouver, Washington right now. The reason that I live here is my family is from here. My wife's family's from here. Vancouver, Washington is the first city into the state of Washington, north of Portland, Oregon. One thing I'm excited about is I actually am next to an airport that's very easy to get to and also goes places, doesn't just fly back to Atlanta or Charlotte to go somewhere. So that is an upgrade for sure. I love that. What's funny is I grew up in Southern California and I hated snowbirds, the travelers in the wintertime. I absolutely hated them. And I will unapologetically say I am ready to do that myself. Cannot wait to do that back and forth. I am ready. Sign me up. Although every time I come back to Virginia, I'm always like, maybe I'll do this fly east and west as a alternative. But my wife and I have a daughter named Ava. She is 5. We're excited. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving. She's going to be the witch. We're going to paint her not yellow. We're going to paint her green. And apparently I'm going to be the scarecrow. I have no idea what that's going to be, but we are a very active family. We are excited about all of the Ubering that we're doing right now between piano lessons and soccer practice and swimming lessons and horseback riding and all the things to stay focused on that. My wife is a sergeant in the police force. She works taking down child predators. So she's going to be not interested in any sleepovers. And I am a financial advisor. So I'm very proud of that. It's basically the pitch or the sarcastic remark I say is I play quarterback without the contact. My goal is to have a different huddle and a different playbook, which is a perfect fit for me. First subject I loved in school was recess. Second is math. So I'm exactly where I should be. I found out that I should be there. Shout out to the Old Dominion Athletic Foundation people. I had a giant whiteboard in my cubicle and I would talk about how to buy a house, or if it was tax time, like what the standard deduction was, or some of these concepts and a bunch of my coworkers would say, why don't you just go do that? You obviously like that. So I am the owner of DeMarco Financial Group. I clear through Raymond James. I am working out of Camas, and I love every part of that. My job is to provide clarity on what the steps are to do for your financial future. So again, it's playing quarterback all over again. This difference is I don't get tackled and no one's trying to kill me, which is nice. But yeah, I really enjoy where I live. The fact that I can get out anywhere, the fact that clients can be from any state is fantastic. So that's pretty much what's going on with me.
Sweet. We talked a little bit before we recorded. I too used to be in that business. I assume that you are registered in the state of Virginia, where a huge amount of our listeners are. Is that a good assumption?
Yeah, so it's different in every profession, but in my profession, I can be registered in any state, and I am currently registered in the state of Virginia. And we have plenty of clients that are all over the country. It does not have to be specific to the state of Washington. It can be in the state of Virginia or anywhere in the country, which is nice because as long as I have Wi-Fi and my cell phone works, I can service and talk and give advice all over the country, which is nice. I really enjoy that aspect for sure.
If you need a financial advisor, give Thomas a call. Let them know how they can reach you and hire you.
Yeah, perfect. You can reach me on my business line at 360-398-5100, or you can send me an email at thomas@DeMarcoFinancialGroup.com. If you Google Thomas DeMarco and Raymond James, it will pull up, or DeMarco Financial Group. There is a website on where we are, what we're about, more about us, why we do what we do. So you guys take a look at any of those 3 ways and you'll be able to get in touch with me.
If you're watching on YouTube, it'll be in the bio underneath this video. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple or whatever, we'll make sure it's there as well. So you can just click and go right to his website. Thomas, I really appreciate you coming on today. This is an interview we've wanted to do for a long time, and I really appreciate you coming on.
Awesome. I've had a great time, guys, down memory lane for sure, and appreciate the questions and the invitation, and I'm glad we could set it up.
Until we see you next, go Monarchs.
Go Monarchs.